Alrighty, welcome back to part two of two, I guess. Alright, so we're gonna real quick. What I'm gonna try and do is explain how Fibonacci works. Hopefully, do it kind of simply. We're gonna be using the one with a little more levels in it, but just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and grab a line, draw it on here, and there we go. So we got our Fibonacci line. And it's a nice one. It goes down, up, and down and retraces. So we have a retrace here, went to the 50% mark. And when I say 50% mark, if we look at the line from here to here is 0 to 100. So ideally, basically what you're looking at on a retracement, each level that it retraces to means when it comes down to a certain point, then price should move back up in the opposite direction. If you're trading reversals, if you're trading like Forex, it's ideally a good time to get out because that means price is probably going to start moving back up in the other direction. Let me be very clear here. Just because Fibonacci says it's going to move doesn't mean it. This is not set in stone. These are just guidelines, basic trading principles. But let's take a look. So if I draw a square from 0 to 100, that gives us the range that the Fibonacci line was drawn in. So let's take this square, and hopefully this will kind of clear up. The retracement was at 50. Let's move it, the square, right up to the tip of that candle. Right there, so the square is now lined up. If we look on this one, price actually did respect it. Price went up to 50, came back down to, I guess you could think of Fibonacci as a floating 0 to 100 zone. It's a very simple way to look at it, but I'm trying to just get the idea because a lot of people, they say Fibonacci, they get scared. I'm just trying to explain the basic principles behind it. But so price went down, and here, let's put some letters on there so you can see it clearly. This was A, and we have B here. Up here, we're going to have C. And point D of our retracement, where we would have kind of expected it. There's actual figures out there for when it hits this point where it should be expected to reverse. You can look those up later, or maybe in one of the later videos I'll give them all out. I don't want to confuse anyone too much. If we're looking at this live, though, let's see. And so here was our expected point of reversal for kind of, like I said, it's a roundabout thing. This is not exact, so don't expect, hey, it hit 61.8 and I'm expecting a reversal. That's kind of the idea. We get a valid retracement. A to B is our original point or plot, 0 to 100. Price moves up to C, so now we look over here. C was 50, and we can come back down and see that's here. Like I said, there is formulas out there to tell you which numbers to expect, so I'll go over those later on in the video. But let's say, for instance, price went to 61.8. So let's move this box so it lines up with 61.8. So as you can see, if price would have retraced to 61.8, then 161.8 would have been our expected reversal point there. It's pretty easy. I mean, price goes 23.6, and slightly above 127 is our retracement point. 38.2, right around 127 is our retracement point. And all this box is the size of 0 to 100. So if, for instance, let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of the Fibo. Let's take a look at it a different way. Let's say our Fibo was here. And I'm just going to use this again for general purposes. We have 0 up to 100. Let's draw that box again and see what we get. There we go. Looks somewhat like a square. Let's see if I can get it selected. I always get issues with this one. Gotta love MT4. There we go. Okay, so I got it selected. So price trace, let's say price went up, came back down to 61.8, and it moves back up. So if we just move our little box, because it's adjusted to the size, You see 61.8 looks like 161.8. Same values, but on a different scale. 38.2 brings us right around the 127 level. Pretty simple. I didn't want you to get too involved with the numbers. I just kind of want you to have a visual of how Fibonacci works. So what we're looking at, again, it's not exact. If this would have been our Fibonacci and price would have came down to 61.8 and then retraced up, so price hit here, and we would be looking at price moving this way. A retracement, or when we would have gotten out of our Forex trade or our binary options trade, if it was a reversal, would have been right around this area. If price would have came down to 38.2, then this around this area up here, this is where we would have been looking for either a reversal to happen, or we would be exiting out of a spot or Forex trade. Pretty simple, easy to use. We'll be going into the exact numbers and everything next video of how to use it. But for now, I think this, by the 3 videos that I've done, this should cover the basics of how Fibonacci works. I'm going to leave this one up for a week before we get into the actual numbers. Hopefully this will help you all out with understanding the basics of Fibonacci. There's a lot of videos out there, they jump right into Fibonacci, but they're so advanced, they probably just blow people's heads off, and you're like, what is going on? I don't understand. So that's why I'm trying to keep these very simple and basic. We're going to look next, it's the next video we'll be looking at the levels and how to use them and what they actually mean, and what, if it hits this level, where it's expected to go. But for now, what I'd want you to do is, let's see if I can find my other chart. Make sure you go in and create just your simple Fibonacci's so you can draw them, get the hang of drawing them. There are tools out there that auto draw them, but I really say using the zigzag, get the hang of them first, because if you don't know what you're using and it's auto plotting it on your chart, you're going to be lost and you're going to be using the tool wrong. The auto Fibonacci's, the ones that draw it for you, are a great tool. They will make your life so much simpler. But if you don't understand the tool, it's like giving you the car keys that you don't know how to drive, saying, here you go, have fun. You're going to lose money. You really need to understand how your tools work before you start letting the MT4 auto draw them for you. And I think it'll help out a lot, because you can look at a chart quickly. And sometimes, like for instance on this one, let's say this was auto drawn for me because, hey, there's my zigzag up, zigzag down. But if we look inside this zigzag, I actually see right here, price came down, came up, and then down. So we had a little bit of one right there. Or we could look at it this way too. And so you'll start seeing these patterns after you use it for a while. Let me zoom in real quick so maybe you'll see this pattern too. And this is why I say using the manual tools, because the auto tools are great, but they're not always going to be there for you, and sometimes they're not going to be quite accurate enough for you for whatever you want. But look, we have the zigzag goes up, A, B, C, which it wasn't a valid because it came out of it, and D, but I would have marked that watching it to see where it goes. So even inside the zigzags, you can identify smaller Fibonacci trends. So again, practice, set them up. I'm going to go one more time through the settings for the Fibos, for the simple ones. Practice setting them up, drawing. If you have any issues, hit me up through the forums, hit me up on Skype, don't matter to me. But again, here's your levels. I'm not going to read them this time. I'm just going to go through them real slow. You can pause the video if you want. Here's the levels you want to put in. Practice drawing them, have fun, see how price reacts to the levels. And next week we'll go into how price actually does work with these levels and what like the 61.8 means and everything else. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned a little bit from it. See y'all next week.